What if I told you that the devil himself, Lucifer, the ancient serpent, once trembled at the very presence of certain men, not kings, not generals, but spiritual giants who walked the earth with such holy authority that even hell took notice? These men weren't feared because of their swords, but because of their obedience, because they wielded a power not of this world, a divine fire that couldn't be quenched, a heavenly seal that Satan could not penetrate. In a world gripped by darkness, they were the ones who made demons flee. Tonight, we unveil their names, their battles, their secrets. These are the three men Lucifer feared in the Bible, and why the devil still trembles at those who follow in their footsteps. Don't blink. The war is still raging, and what you're about to hear may change how you see the battlefield forever. Number 1, Moses, the man who faced the serpent. He was born during genocide, a child condemned by Pharaoh's fear, a ruler who sensed a strange threat stirring among the Hebrews. Infants were drowned by the dozens, yet Moses survived. Why? Because the devil's plan came too late. Heaven had already spoken. Lucifer knew something was different about this child, a Hebrew boy raised as royalty, a bridge between two worlds. The enemy tried to corrupt him with privilege, tried to soften his identity with Egyptian gold, but Moses' soul never belonged to Pharaoh's palace. When he fled into the desert, a murderer with no home, Lucifer must have laughed. Another failed prophet, another broken soul. But the desert is where God works best. The fire didn't burn the bush, it refined the man. And in that fire, God revealed his name. I am not a god among gods, the only one, the great, unshakable reality. And that voice sent Moses straight into Satan's stronghold, Egypt. This was more than politics. It was spiritual warfare. Pharaoh's court was steeped in the occult, high priests and magicians channeling ancient spirits. When Moses cast down his staff and it turned into a serpent, the magicians responded in kind. But Moses' serpent devoured theirs. That wasn't just a miracle, it was a message. The power of darkness will always be swallowed by the power of God. Each plague was a direct assault on an Egyptian deity. The Nile turned to blood. Hapi, the god of the river, defeated. Frogs, gnats, boils, and darkness, plagues that humiliated the gods of fertility, healing, and the sun. Lucifer's fortress was crumbling from the inside. Moses wasn't just confronting a dictator. He was dismantling an entire satanic infrastructure. Demons shrieked as their idols fell. Pharaoh hardened his heart, but the grip of darkness was. And then came the night of blood. The firstborn died across Egypt, but the Hebrews were spared. Not because they were powerful, but because they were covered by the blood of the Lamb, a prophecy in motion, a whisper of the Christ to come. The people stood trapped between Pharaoh's army and the sea. But Moses, empowered by obedience, raised his staff, and the waters tore apart. The Red Sea bowed to the authority of heaven. Lucifer watched as his empire collapsed under walls of divine judgment. But even in death, Moses was feared. Jude 1:9 tells us something wild. Satan tried to claim his body. Why? Some scholars believe Lucifer wanted to desecrate it, turn it into an idol. Others think he feared Moses might return in power. Whatever the reason, Satan lost. The archangel Michael rebuked him, and Moses' grave remains unknown to this day. Moses proved something terrifying to the forces of evil. One man submitted to God can dismantle a kingdom, not through violence, but through obedience, intimacy, and fire. Number 2, Enoch. In the early pages of Genesis, before the flood, before Moses, before even Abraham, there is a man whose story is so short it's easy to overlook. Just a few verses, no miracles, no armies, no Red Sea. And yet, Lucifer feared him. His name was Enoch, and he was so close to God, he skipped. The Bible says, Enoch walked with God, and then he was not. For God took him. That's it. No funeral, no burial, no tomb, just gone. Now pause. Think about that. This was a time when the world was falling apart. The bloodline of humanity was polluted. Giants were roaming the earth. Demonic spirits, fallen. Angels were corrupting mankind. Violence, sexual perversion, occult knowledge. It was the devil's playground. But then there was Enoch, a man who walked in such perfect communion with God that heaven refused to let him die. The enemy had corrupted nearly every soul on earth, but Enoch was untouchable, protected, preserved, promoted. But there's more, so much more. According to ancient texts, especially the book of Enoch, which was read by early Christians and quoted by Jude in the New Testament, this man wasn't just a godly walker, he was a prophet of judgment. Enoch received visions. He saw the fall of the angels. He recorded the names of the rebellious watchers. He wrote about the prison beneath, the earth where they were locked away. He saw the coming flood before Noah ever heard a word. And he saw the return of the Son of Man. Behold, he prophesied, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all. This was thousands of years before Christ, and yet Enoch was already announcing his arrival. Imagine how that sounded in the ears of Lucifer. This man, this human, was prophesying Satan's future defeat, calling out the fallen, exposing the hidden realms, declaring the eternal doom of the serpent and his angels. Lucifer couldn't touch him, couldn't silence him, couldn't kill him, so God simply took him. It's no wonder Enoch appears again. In the final book, the Revelation, two mysterious witnesses are said to rise in the end times, preaching judgment, breathing fire, shutting the heavens, calling down plagues. And though their names are not given, many believe one of them will be Enoch. Why? Because he never died. Hebrews tells us that it is appointed unto man once to die, and after this, the judgment. Enoch's death hasn't happened yet, which means that he may be coming back. Even after thousands of years, the war he began isn't finished, and perhaps the devil knows Enoch is still out there, waiting. In the end, Enoch's power wasn't in swords or speeches. It was in his walk, his quiet, relentless intimacy with God. He didn't chase fame, he didn't build empires. He just walked and listened and obeyed. And that made him one of the most dangerous men who ever lived. Lucifer fears that kind of man. Not because he shouts, but because he listens. Not because he conquers, but because he walks with the one who already has. The day Enoch vanished, hell felt the tremor. Number 3, Jesus. He watched him from the beginning. The serpent knew the prophecy. The seed of the woman will crush your head. That single promise spoken in Eden echoed through the corridors of hell like a ticking clock. Lucifer didn't know when, he didn't know how, but he knew one day a man would be born who could destroy him, and that man would bleed like any other. But he would not bow. When Jesus arrived, he did so quietly. No thunder, no royal procession, just a child wrapped in cloth laid in a feeding trough. But the enemy was already stirring, a star in the sky, Magi from the east, and a paranoid king who killed every boy under 2, trying to snuff out a flame. He couldn't understand. But heaven was always one step ahead. The child lived, and for 30 years Jesus lived without headlines, quiet, obedient, human. He felt hunger, he wept, he worked, he waited, and Lucifer watched. And then it began. The heavens tore open as he rose from the Jordan River. The Spirit descended like a dove, and the voice of the Father thundered, "This is my beloved Son, in him I am well pleased." It was war. the Spirit led Jesus, not into comfort, but into the wilderness. 40 days of hunger, isolation, silence. And there, in that scorching emptiness, Lucifer came to him face to face, not in shadow, not through possession, direct, personal. For the first time since Eden, God and Satan would meet in the flesh. "If you are the Son of God," Lucifer hissed, "turn these stones into bread." Hunger, the flesh, the most basic human craving. But Jesus answered, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." He took him to the temple. "Throw yourself down, the angels will catch you." Pride, spectacle, tempting God to perform like a magician. But Jesus replied, "You shall not test the Lord your God." And finally Lucifer dropped the mask. He showed him all the kingdoms of the world and said, "Bow to me, and it's all yours." Jesus didn't flinch. "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." And with that, the devil fled. But the real war had only begun. Everywhere Jesus went, darkness trembled, demons shrieked and begged. "Have you come to torment us before the time?" They knew who he was. They remembered that voice from the beginning of creation. And now the word had flesh, and he was speaking again. Jesus healed the sick. He raised the dead. He walked on storms and fed thousands. But most dangerous of all, he forgave sins, not through ritual, not through sacrifice, but with a word. "Your sins are forgiven. Go in peace." Lucifer stirred the hearts of men, religious leaders, crowds, Rome. He whispered lies, planted pride, stirred up betrayal. He found his weapon in one of Jesus's own, Judas. And then, in the darkness of Gethsemane, he struck. Jesus was arrested, beaten, humiliated, whipped until his flesh was shredded, and nailed to a cross like a criminal. This was it. This was Lucifer's plan fulfilled, the seed of the woman, broken and dying. And as the sky darkened, hell prepared to celebrate. But they didn't understand. He wasn't losing. He was sacrificing. With each drop of blood, a prison door shook. With every gasp for breath, a chain shattered. He absorbed the full weight of sin, not just for one man, but for all humanity. And when he cried out, "It is finished," it wasn't a declaration of defeat. It was a war cry of victory. For 3 days, silence. Then the earth shook. The stone rolled, and Jesus walked out, not wounded, not limping, but glorified, unstoppable. The sting of death removed, the power of sin broken. And Lucifer, watching in disbelief, realized the prophecy had been fulfilled. The seed of the woman had crushed the serpent's head. Jesus didn't just defeat Satan. He exposed him, disarmed him, shamed him, and declared to every soul, every demon, every principality, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." And now he offers that victory to us. Moses broke the system of sorcery. Job shattered the devil's expectations. But Jesus dismantled hell itself. These 3 men, different in time, role, and strength, terrified Lucifer, because they walked not in their own power, but in obedience. And that obedience shook eternity. The devil doesn't fear talent. He doesn't fear success. But he trembles at a heart that refuses to bow to anything but God. So the question now isn't just, who did Lucifer fear? The real question is, would he fear you?